I come to you with a story that I am very well aware of the fact that you might not be aware of. The vast majority of people, not the vast majority, the majority of people that watch this channel will have absolutely zero familiarity with college football at all. But I encourage you to not click off this video because what I'm talking about is a story that blows Leicester City out of the water completely. A story that is so unbelievable that people such as myself, who are sports obsessed, and I have been a huge college American football fan my entire life, right? And have followed it and loved the history of it, and the type of fandom that you have where you just absorb everything in that world, right? College football, college basketball, NFL, NHL, NBA, MLB. Like I'm in all that. College football is right up at the top for me. It's just the most entertaining sports to watch. And there is a story unfolding within it right now that is one of the greatest sports stories. I'm tired of saying that. This is the most insane individual sports turnaround I've ever seen. I am somebody that loves qualifiers. I think that what is happening with the Indiana Hoosiers football team is the most insane turnaround that I've ever seen. It is the most surprising upset story, the most surprising out of nowhere to win it all type story you could possibly imagine. And it's happening in a sport that could best be described as something like F1, where college football at the top level has about 130 teams. These are all different colleges and universities in the United States that are all competing to win the national championship at the highest level. Now, there's various universities that play below this, but there's basically tiers. There's no promotion and relegation. You move between them by investing more money in your sports program and asking to move, basically. So there are levels, the hundreds and hundreds of colleges that play football at lower levels, but the top level, FBS, the Football Bowl Subdivision is what that stands for, is about 130 teams. And those 130 teams are sorted into things called conferences. Now, each conference has a certain number of teams, anywhere from 8 to 20, and you compete to win your conference, and then you compete to win the national championship. Now, there are like 9 or 10 of these conferences, but there are 4 that are known as the Power 4 conferences. Why are they the Power 4? Because the schools in them have more money, they have more alums, they're bigger schools. Right, they have some of them stadiums of over 100,000 seats. In fact, I've looked this up before, the 14 biggest stadiums in the United States are all for college football, and none of them are for the Indiana Hoosiers. Because even though the University of Indiana, or Indiana University, I actually don't even know what order it's in. Basically, the State University of Indiana is a power conference team. They're the worst one. I mean, literally, historically, the worst team in a power conference. They're in a conference called the Big Ten, which is kind of the Midwest, and a very old historic conference that includes, Michigan, Ohio State. These are big names. Penn State, right? Which is Pennsylvania State. The University of Southern California is in it now. USC, the Trojans, Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, Pete Carroll. These are names that probably mean nothing to you, right? But there's tons of history and tradition and great teams. And those great teams have kicked the shit out of Indiana for 100 years. Like, that is not an over-exaggeration, okay? This team, before the coach, Curt Cignetti, took over, this is the guy, had never won 10-plus games in a season. You play usually 12. If you play in the postseason, you play 13, right? You play a bowl game, you get one more game. In the entire history of Indiana football, had never won 10 of those games, ever. This is a team, like, I realize most of the U.S. infrastructure, there's not a lot of history to it. College football, there's a ton of history. Indiana's been playing college football since the 1880s. They have never won 10 games in a season, ever. They had, in fact, entering this season, I believe this tweet, they entered this year as they had lost more games. They had lost more college football games than any other team in the history of college football. They're old. They've been playing football at Indiana forever, and they've never been good. Not one time. Now, they're in a power conference because they're a very good basketball school. In fact, they used to be one of the best basketball schools. They're the last college basketball team to have a perfect season, where they won literally every game in that college basketball season. And so they're also a huge institution that, has lots of money and stuff. And so they've been able to stay a power conference team. The Big Ten's never wanted to get rid of them because, honestly, you need somebody to play on homecoming. You need a punching bag. They had more losses than any team in college football history. And then this guy shows up, Curt Cignetti. Before Cignetti, 16 wins was the most for Indiana in a 2-year span. So over 2 years, right, they averaged 8 wins. Indiana has now won 26 games in the last 2 years. This guy got here 2 years ago. He sat down at a press conference. He came from a university called James Madison, which was from outside the power conferences. And they went, what are the expectations for Indiana? And he sat there in the press conference and he went, it's kind of simple. I win. Google me. And everybody laughed. This is a guy coming into Indiana. This is a basketball school. They don't even really care about football. The football team's there just because there's supposed to be a football team there. They never win. And you've got this funny guy with a funny name sitting down saying, I win, Google me. Yeah, okay, let's see until you play Ohio. Let's see what happens when you play Ohio State. The first season, he goes 11-1. He wins 11 fucking games at Indiana. That's the winningest season ever. Year 1, he shows up and wins 11 games. He makes the college football playoff. Sure, they lost to Ohio State. That was their one loss. But in the college football playoff, they played Notre Dame, one of the big traditional power football programs. They only lost by 10 at Notre Dame, 27-17. They made the playoff. Only 12 teams in the country out of the 130 plus make the playoff. Indiana had never been that close to a national championship ever. Right? In the 12-team playoff, they make it. They lose to Notre Dame 27-17, and everybody's going, wow, that was amazing. Must have been a flash in the pan. And then the first play of the season, they give up a touchdown to a team called Old Dominion, and they scratch out a 27-14 win. Then they play Kennesaw State and beat them 56-9. Now, Kennesaw State is bad. Indiana State is very bad. They beat them 73-0. But nobody thinks anything of it because they're beating bad teams. They then play Illinois. Illinois doesn't suck. Illinois, in fact, this season would go on to win 9 games and a bowl game. They beat them 63-10. That is, if you're not familiar with college football scores, murderous, relentless. That's generational. That's getting kicked in the nuts so hard your great-grandparents feel it. That is an unbelievable beatdown on national television against another Big Ten team that at the time this game was played was ranked in the top 25. There's a thing in college football where if you're one of the best 25 teams, basically a bunch of people vote every week to rank the top 25, and being in the top 25 is a big deal. At this point, both of these teams were in the top 25, and you just don't see top 25 teams lose by 53 points. It doesn't happen. The next game was against Iowa, a notoriously difficult team to play. They're a grinding, low-scoring team. A low block, if you will. They beat them 20-15. Then they play against the Oregon Ducks. Oregon is ranked top 5 in the country. Oregon has an athletic department that's supported by the founder of Nike. They have money coming out of their ears. They've got football tradition stretching back decades. They've got a string of NFL players longer than your arm to look back on. They've got 5-star recruits all over the place. High school recruits are ranked on a scale of 1 to no stars to 5 stars. There are only 32 5-stars in every high school class. The rest of the good ones are 4 stars. The 3 stars are like your average top-level players. Indiana has 0 5-stars on its entire team. It has 8 4-stars. Oregon probably doesn't even start anybody that's not at least a 4-star. Indiana goes over to Oregon, beats them 30-20. Now everybody's paying attention. They beat Michigan State 38-13. They beat the University of California, Los Angeles. These are all Big Ten teams, by the way. 56-6, UCLA. They beat Maryland 55-10. They're killing teams. They play against mighty Penn State, who's they're having a weird meltdown, fired their coach or whatever, but still an incredibly talented team. They need a late touchdown drive to beat them by 3, and everybody's thinking, oh, Indiana's finally cooked. They play Wisconsin, very difficult team to play. Usually they beat them 31-7. They beat their in-state rival, Purdue, 56-3. That is an undefeated 12-0 season for the first time in Indiana history. That means in the regular season, for the past 2 years, taking over the losingest program ever, Curt Cignetti has lost 1 game in the regular season. 1. This is a team 4 years ago in the 2021 season. In the 2021 season, they went 2-10 in the regular season. They lost to basically every single one of these teams. This does not happen in American football. It's not possible to do this. It's not possible. Wisconsin's players are better on paper than Indiana's players. Penn State's are miles better. It's not even close. Penn State's a national championship contender a lot of the time. They're not even in the same neighborhood. Hell, Michigan State, Maryland, UCLA, Oregon for sure, Iowa every day and twice on Sunday has better players, better pedigree, better reputation. They're supposed to win that game. Illinois, they just don't. And it's not that they just don't. A lot of them are getting murdered. They're getting destroyed. It's like they're playing an NFL team or something, made up of 3-star dudes that Curt Cignetti has turned into a machine of embarrassment. He's embarrassing teams. This sends Indiana to the Big Ten championship, which Indiana has never won in football, ever. Sorry, they most recently won the Big Ten in 1967 under coach John Pont when they went 9-2. They then promptly did not finish in the top 4 of the conference in the rest of John Pont's tenure. This is what they were doing. Dude, the season before Curt Cignetti got there, they went 3-9. They won 3 games. They went 1-8 in Big Ten play. He literally reversed it. The next season. They went 8-1 in Big Ten. It's not possible. It's not possible. There are rules. There are laws. This is like a guy coming in and breaking the laws of physics. This is somebody coming into Isaac Newton's office and dropping an apple and it goes up. Like, that's what's happening. In college football, you can't do this. Now, there have been transformations in college football that make it easier. Players can move more freely between universities now than they used to be able to. But what that has done, that's existed for a couple of years before Curt Cignetti. And what that has done is basically destabilized everybody. There is less consistency in the good teams and the bad teams because it's harder to hang on to your players. And out of this chaos has risen a phoenix, an Italian phoenix, named Curt Cignetti, look at this dude. This is his demeanor, by the way, with most recent game, they're winning 42-7. They're winning the game 42-7. In this video, they score a touchdown. Everybody is celebrating a touchdown for Indiana in the background. Curt Cignetti is upset about something. He's disappointed. He's scowling. He's coaching his ass off. This is this guy's demeanor. He's unbelievable. He is, as Big Cat from Barstool Sports says, he's so perfect. He's just so locked in. It's unstoppable. And then you get into the postseason. There didn't used to be a championship game back in 1967 or 1945. The 2 years since 18 whatever. Let me get it right here. The 2 years since Arthur Woodford took the field with Indiana in 1887 that they've actually managed to win a Big Ten championship, which is a conference that they have been playing in since 1957. Sorry, they won the Western Conference back in 1945. I got to make sure I get that straight. They've been in the Big Ten since 1957. They've won it 1 time. Now there's a championship game against mighty Ohio State, who, by the way, at the point that this game was played, is undefeated. They've won every game. They're the number one team in the country on the AP poll. Indiana goes in and holds them to 10 fucking points. That's not possible. It's not possible. It should not happen. You are not capable of stopping the quality of players, the 5-star NFL-bound wide receivers, the guys catching the passes, the guys throwing the passes that Ohio State has, with a bunch of 3-stars that aren't as fast, that aren't as good, except they are. Normally, when you watch football and you watch a team that is doing what Indiana is doing, which one has never happened, but a team that's maybe winning more games than they're supposed to win, they're doing it with scheme. They're hiding the flaws of having bad players. They've got a couple of players who are clearly diamonds in the rough, and they're making some magic happen by isolating those good players and But if you actually go talent on talent, if you put their line against your line, the Ohio State line's going to win. They're bigger. They're stronger. It's football. That matters. They're faster. They jump higher. They've got better hands. They're just better athletes. That's why they were 5-star recruits. That's why Ohio State's paying them $1 million to catch a football at a college. And they go out there and they score 10 points. And Indiana beats them and wins the Big Ten championship. And it breaks the rules. And the reason it breaks the rules the most is because when you watch the games, Indiana is better. Their players are better. It's like watching Tanzania show up at AFCON and just do rondos all over Nigeria. Except that's not even as extreme. I mean, this is somebody showing up at a team at the top of League One, basically, convincing a bunch of diamonds in the rough, clearly, to come to that school, to come to that team. And they show up in the FA Cup and they're playing against Manchester City and they're winning the possession battle. They're visibly better. It is not an over-exaggeration to say that is what is happening here. In the first season, that is what was happening. Now, in the second season, after going 11-1, he was able to use that as a recruiting pitch to attract more good players to his team. But in 1 year, how much more nuclear can you go, right? He's able to attract investment from the alumni base. They're investing in the program so that the program's able to spend more money to go get players. But they're not spending anywhere near as much money as Ohio State, as Georgia, as Alabama, as Michigan. They're not spending anywhere near that amount of money. Michigan's got a quarterback. They're paying $10 million. He's 18 years old. I mean, yeah, they went from here to here, but they didn't catch everybody else up here, and they're just outplaying them. They're better football players. They're moving the line. Ohio State's offensive line got cooked in this game. Those dudes are huge. And Indiana's defensive line was just better. It makes no sense. Nobody understands how it's happening. I still can't properly express to you how unbelievable it is to see 3 stars wearing an Indiana uniform be able to actually go and just beat these teams because they're better than them. Then you go into the college football playoff. Indiana's the number 1 team in the country at this point because they're the 13-0 Big Ten champions, which means they get a bye in the first round, and they get Alabama, who has beaten Texas A&M, I think, in the previous, or Oklahoma in the previous round. Alabama, the 15-time or whatever national champions, just the best college football team tradition-wise out there. And clearly a very good team this year because they've made it to the quarterfinal of the college football playoff. And this is, even though they beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship, this is the rubber meets the road moment. This is, all right, come on. I know Indiana's had a hell of a season, but it's Alabama. I mean, Bama trips and falls out of bed into a pile of 5 stars. They've got some of the best athletes, some of the best football players on planet Earth coming through Alabama. There's an Alabama guy on every single NFL roster. At least one, usually more. Right? This is a talent factory. This is a professional college team in a way that the Indiana just never has been. It's Alabama. And more importantly, you're playing Alabama. It's the mental effect of seeing that Alabama uniform walk in I mean, it's like playing Real Madrid and Copa del Rey or something. You're in the Champions League is a way better example. And you just go, oh, fuck. Like, this is not going to be easy. This is Alabama. But something about the way Curt Cignetti has coached this team, they don't give a shit. They beat them 38-3. This is the worst postseason loss for Alabama, like, ever. They beat their ass. It could have been worse. Alabama got lucky. This score could have been worse. Like, if it was more likely to be more for Indiana or less, it should have been more. Alabama barely scored. They couldn't move the ball. Their quarterback got his rib cracked in the second quarter. He got hit so hard. Like, Indiana just plays so, they're scary, and they shouldn't be. There is nothing scary about Indiana football. There's nothing scary about the names on their roster, but you play them. They're terrifying. You can't do anything. They're not there to beat you. The question's not whether Indiana's going to win. It's whether you're going to be able to leave with your dignity. Alabama didn't. Semifinal, Oregon didn't. Oregon scored a touchdown late. They were losing this 56-14. This was the first play of the game, by the way. First play of the game. The Oregon Ducks, who are again funded by Nike. They're a huge football institution. They have a beautiful stadium. This is a very proud football school. They've never won a national championship, but it's something of a fluke, right? It's kind of like the Tottenham Trophy drought in some ways, where they've had a host of incredible football players come through Oregon. They're one of the great football programs. And then you get this. First play of the game. Pick six. Oregon's trying to move the ball that way. The first play of the game, he throws an out route. The corner has unbelievable coverage, has his eyes on the quarterback. The technique is perfect. He jumps the route, intercepts it, and runs it in for an Indiana touchdown. 7-0. First play. They're here to kill you. This game was 35-7 at halftime. It doesn't make any sense. And now they're going into the championship game taking on Miami, who's a bit of an underdog this year, but a former powerhouse. They obviously have a ton of talent. The southern area of Florida is an American football talent factory. So the University of Miami is able to pick up a lot of that talent. They played an incredible semifinal game against Ole Miss, which is the State University of Mississippi. And, they won it on the last play of the game. That's what these games are supposed to look like. That's what they normally look like. It comes down to a kick, one more pass, 2-3 points here or there. Not 56-22. That's not, even the great Alabama and Georgia teams weren't doing this to Oregon. They weren't doing this to Alabama, right? The championship game is now Indiana against Miami. And as unbelievable as it feels to have imagined this 2 years ago when Indiana was 3-9, Indiana's going to be the favorite by a lot. And the question doesn't seem to be, can Miami win? It's, will it be close? And that is what is the most remarkable thing about this entire story, is that this is not an upset. This is the best team winning. And the question is, how the fuck is Indiana the best team? And how is it possible that it happened that quickly? They have beaten Ohio State, Alabama, and Oregon by a combined score of 107-36. They have 8 4-stars. Oregon had 55 4 or 5 stars on their roster. But the difference, and this is a key that I think a lot of coaches are going to take from it, but I also want to emphasize that this is not the only reason. Indiana has 45 players with at least 4 years of experience playing college football. They're old. I mean, there are a lot of teams that are old, but Indiana clearly finds the right old guys, experienced, physical, developed guys that can perform. That can perform at that level. I love this line, how do a bunch of 3-stars turn into the fucking 85 Bears on defense and the greatest show on turf on offense, the 85 Bears being the greatest NFL defense of all time. Lane Kiffin, who I made a video about, college is so hard, I'm going to abandon my playoff team to go to a program with a better chance to win. Then Curt Cignetti, I'm going to walk straight into the mouth of hell and then fuck up everybody. Because he took one of the worst power conference jobs. And he has turned it into a wrecking ball. Their quarterback, Fernando Mendoza, who a lot of teams could have signed, the University of Miami didn't even offer him a walk-on spot, let alone a scholarship, like a paid spot. They didn't even let him play on the team for free. Now, Fernando Mendoza's had his 5th game this year where he has thrown more touchdowns, which is passes into the end zone, than incomplete passes at all. 5th game. It's insane. And they're now 1 win away. They're one win away from complete immortality. It is like a coronation. It's the greatest coaching job I've ever seen in any sport. This beats the Zambia AFCON. This beats Leicester City out of the water. Leicester City, respectfully, there's only 20 teams in the Prem. I love the Leicester City story. It's unbelievable. It is one of the most amazing sports stories of all time. And up until this, I would say the most surprising champion that you could find. That or the Zambia AFCON. Those are really the two things that I think of. NC State and March Madness back in the 80s. There are some pretty incredible stories out there. It's impossible to beat this. It doesn't make any sense. It defies every rule and law of the sport of college football that I have understood my entire life, that every other coach has understood. Everybody else is looking at their coaches the coaches are getting embarrassed. The coach of Oregon has way more resources than the guy who's coaching Indiana. Why can't he do this? Everybody's looking at their guy going, why can't you do what Curt Cignetti is doing? Nobody knows. He's turned a team of nobodies into the best team. He's just the best coach. And they're just the best team. And they're going to beat Miami. They're probably going to beat them by a lot. And they're going to be the first ever 16-0 champion in the college football playoff history. Because the playoff just expanded to 12 teams. It just doesn't happen. The last 16-0 champion was Yale in 1894. Obviously, the opportunity to be a 16-0 champion hasn't existed a lot because now there's this extra game with the expansion of the college football playoff. But that gives you an idea. But you want dominance? Here you go. FBS or equivalent. You know what FBS is. This is the top level of college football. Teams to score 55-plus points and win by 30-plus points in 7 different games in a season. 1885 Princeton, 1886 Yale, 2025 Indiana. They genuinely have a chance for the most impressive championship season ever. They have a chance to take a team that not only would be considered an unbelievable upset championship, that's clearly never won a national championship, it's only won one Big Ten ever before this season, and become the best team ever. Nobody's looking at Leicester and going, wow, that was the best team in Premier League history. That's what we're looking at. The best team ever.